on a series of disputed islands in the South China Sea by next month. Officials say tourists can visit the islands only on ships because of poor facilities on the territories. Authorities also say they're going to spend huge sums of money to develop a new city and build an army on the islands. The move is likely to draw the anger of Vietnam and Taiwan, which also claim ownership over the islands. The disputed territories, which are known as Jisha in China and Parasols elsewhere, have been under Chinese rule since 1974. Iran is calling for calm on the Korean peninsula as the situation there seems to be drawing closer to a big explosion. Iran's foreign ministry spokesman Ramin Mehmanparast says no country should act provocatively and stoke regional crisis. He accused the US of causing provocations through military drills with South Korea. The US is using nuclear-capable stealth bombers in its joint military drills with South Korea on the Korean peninsula. Meanwhile, China and Australia have urged the international community to counter what they describe as Pyongyang's aggression.
The international community should advocate the vision of comprehensive and cooperative security, so as to turn the global village into a big stage for common development rather than an arena where gladiators fight each other. And no one should be allowed to throw the region or even the whole world into chaos for selfish gains.
All countries in the region share a deep interest in strategic stability, but the consequences of conflict are ever more severe for us all. This is nowhere more clear than on the Korean Peninsula. There, any aggression is a threat to the interests of every country in the region. For this reason, I do welcome the growing cooperation of all regional governments to prevent conflict on the Korean Peninsula and to counter North Korean aggression.
North Korea seems prepared for a war with the US and South Korea. Pyongyang has moved 2 medium-range missiles to its eastern coast. South Korea says its northern neighbour may test launch a missile next week. North Korean military is on high alert and training sessions are held every day. The army conducts daily firing drills and is training military dogs with targets on which posters of South Korean Defence Minister Kim Kwon-jin are attached.
Kim Kwon-jin is such a defective human being. He doesn't even deserve to be our target.
As you all know, on the Korean Peninsula, it's not a matter of whether we will have a war or not, but whether it will take place today or tomorrow. This is a situation like being on the eve of a big explosion. Every minute, every second counts.
A French newspaper has revealed the details of how the former budget minister avoided paying tax. The former minister has admitted to having lied for months. The incident has caused a political crisis in France. Our correspondent Anastop Roy tells us more.
This is the epicenter of the tremors hitting the French political class. Week after week, the online newspaper has been revealing how Jérôme Cahuzac had stashed 600,000 euros in accounts in other countries. The former budget minister denied allegations for months and finally admitted last week he had lied. Mediapart's investigative journalists say the minister's activities had been smelling fishy for quite some time.
L'affaire Bettencourt, d'abord parce que the Bettencourt affair was a starting point. First, because we found that Jérôme Cahuzac supported Éric Woerth, a former minister who was accused of corruption in 2011. The moment Mr. Cahuzac became minister, he published a report in which he said Mr. Woerth is innocent. And when we published our first reports on the former budget minister, Éric Woerth openly supported him. Too many close connections here.
The online newspaper claims it has proofs the very man fighting tax evasion avoided paying taxes in France himself. In the past, when faced with serious political crisis, French presidents have resorted to cabinet reshuffles. However, this time, President François Hollande has ruled out following that trend. For Mediapart, a reshuffle is helpful only if it is followed by the establishment of strict checks and balances.
reshuffle, we have to know why it would take place. Until now, what we have heard from politicians does not face up to the seriousness of the problems. If it is only to change the faces on ministries, then that is only make-up. But if there are mechanisms which will prevent a repeat of corruption, then a reshuffle will be useful.
The world of French politics has come under sharp scrutiny after the media revealed the election campaign in charge of President Hollande had also avoided paying taxes.
There's an immense loss of credibility of the political class. Anyone on the street will tell you the entire political class is rotten, be it on the right or on the left of the political spectrum. But if the politicians want to keep their jobs, remain credible, then they have to prove they are serious about fighting corruption.
Many hope these revelations will introduce more transparency into French politics. Anista Proy, Press TV, Paris.
Amnesty International has recently released a report criticising the European Union for failing to heed the human rights violations against Europe's Roma population. The report has drawn special attention on the eve of the International Roma Day. We're going to take a look now at some of the challenges facing the Roma community.
A leading human rights organization criticizes the European Union for continent-wide discrimination and violence against the Roma community. Amnesty International says the EU is not doing enough to end the human rights violations committed by its member states against the community. The rights group has also urged the 27-country bloc to impose sanctions on the states which refuse to halt their illegal practices.
The EU must implement immediately the considerable measures at its disposal to sanction governments that are failing to tackle discrimination and violence against Roma.
The report has been released on the eve of International Roma Day on April 8, when Amnesty International plans to hold a demonstration outside EU Parliament in Brussels to condemn the violation of Roma's rights. An estimated 6 million Roma people are living in EU countries. They fall far below the national average on almost all human development indicators. Based on the report, 8 out of 10 Roma are at risk of poverty. Forced evictions of Roma also continue to be the norm in several countries, including France, Italy and Romania. But the issues of the impoverished community is not limited only to their harsh living conditions. Europe's Roma population has also been dealing with a bloody violence against them. Between January 2008 and July 2012, there were 120 serious violent attacks, including shootings, stabbings and arson attacks against Roma in several countries. Rights groups say European authorities have failed to prevent or even launch thorough investigations into the incidents. The report comes as certain European states try to portray themselves as the flag bearers of human rights and keep criticizing other nations over their human rights records.
And that's all the time we have for this edition of the news. Thank you for staying with us. Up next, Arash with your sports news.